The need to train in frigid, difficult terrain has never been more important. Many trouble spots in the Middle East, from Syria to Yemen, Iran to Afghanistan, are fringed by soaring peaks. Meanwhile, climate change has opened up large portions of the Arctic Circle once choked by ice to exploration and exploitation. Conflict may well follow. The Marines will need to be able to not only function, but succeed in such forbidding places.
The idea being that as Marines, we have to be America's 911 force in readiness, ready to fight in any climb or place, even if there's not a war going on there.
It's part of what the Marine Corps needs to be ready to do, in any kind of environment. So, our little slice of it is high altitude, mountainous, and snow-covered environments.
At any given time, there are about 500 uniformed men and women training here, not just from the Marines, but also Army, Navy, Air Force, allied nations too, Brits, Canadians, Germans. The training center is also known as USMC Bridgeport for the small California town about 20 minutes away from here. It lies in the Toyabe National Forest just north of Yosemite, and virtually all of this is on public land. The base itself sits at about 6,800 feet in a small valley called Pickle Meadow, but the action takes place much higher up.
This is the first real phase of it, where we take Marines that in many cases have been stationed by the coasts, never seen the snow before, never been on skis before, and we bring them up into this environment and we teach them how, again, from a very crawl, walk, run sort of mentality, how to really live and then thrive in this environment.
0 to 100.
Yeah, 0 to 100, absolutely.
We've come to the U.S. Marine Corps' Mountain Warfare Training Center in California's Sierra Nevada mountain range. Here, Marines are trained to fight, maneuver, and survive in high altitude and frigid conditions. In this terrain, skis will get a Marine from point A to point B much faster than snowshoes. But when it comes to small unit combat, that isn't always true. Once they find themselves in a firefight, the Marines are trained to get on those snowshoes and maximize their mobility. So you use the skis to get to the enemy, the snowshoes for the actual fight. The Marines are trained to fight with whatever is strapped to their feet, of course, but should they need to engage the enemy while wearing skis? Well, the instructors have that covered. There are 3 firing positions. Number 1,
the standing position, and the big difference between what they're normally used to, shooting on a range, is that they're actually cocking their skis out to keep them from kind of sliding back down the hill as they're shooting. The kneeling position, same thing. They're just a little bit more uncomfortable, but a means of not ditching your skis, still being able to shoot and move in a snow-covered environment. And then ultimately the prone position, just coming forward off of the skis, skis kind of splayed out, and being able to engage targets once again in the snow without having to remove the snowshoes or the skis that they're shooting from.
The Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center in the Sierra Nevada mountain range, where jarheads and leathernecks get unique instruction for fighting and survival in thin air and wintry weather. The catchphrase you hear so much around here is "the environment is the enemy." At Bridgeport, survival training is just as important as combat training.
The wind specifically up here at Grouse Meadows really gets howling.
Marines at sea level are trained to dig defensive positions to block bullets and shells. But in the mountains, the focus is on keeping warm.
They've established this kind of field fortification to get away from the wind, away from the weather.
These snow forts are a great place to stay hydrated, but water isn't always a good thing in these temperatures. These Marines are taught to escape from a fall into an icy lake or river. To prepare for this drill, engineers blow a hole in the ice. Then, Marines defy human nature and jump into the freezing water. The key is to get that heavy pack out first. That is where their spare dry clothes are kept. The ski poles become a life-saving tool. The Marines have to summon the strength to drag himself out of the deep freeze. They only have a few minutes to work their way out of the water before hypothermia sets in. And then, at least in training, it's off for a quick nip of the hard stuff before changing.
To the Marine Corps.
After a chilling dip in the ice, a fire is a necessity.
Any questions?